If you're a man over 50, you probably start every morning with coffee. But what if that same cup could do more than just wake you up? I'm Dr. William Carter, a board-certified urologist who's spent over 25 years working with men navigating the changes that come after 50. I've seen thousands of patients in my practice, and one pattern keeps showing up: men feel like something's off. Energy isn't what it used to be. That morning confidence feels harder to come by. Blood flow seems sluggish, and that afternoon crash, it hits harder than it did at 30. Here's the thing though, your daily coffee ritual doesn't have to be just about caffeine anymore. With a few simple, research-backed additions, you can transform that morning cup into a tool that supports your circulation, hormonal health, mental clarity, and even your performance in the bedroom. I'm not talking about exotic supplements or expensive powders you can't pronounce. I'm talking about natural ingredients with real physiological mechanisms that work with your body, not against it. Before we get into the science, hit subscribe, share this with a 50-plus friend who takes his coffee seriously, and tell me in the comments how you drink yours: black, cream, or something else. I read every comment and answer top questions in future videos. Now let me explain why this matters so much after 50. When you cross that threshold, your body starts making shifts that are completely normal, but profoundly impactful. Your endothelial cells, the ones lining your blood vessels, become less efficient at producing nitric oxide. That's the molecule responsible for vasodilation, the opening of your blood vessels that allows nutrient-rich blood to reach every tissue in your body, including the ones that matter for sexual function. Your testosterone production begins to decline at a rate of about 1 to 2% per year. Your vascular walls lose some of their elasticity, inflammation becomes more persistent. Insulin sensitivity can decrease, making blood sugar harder to control. All of these changes are interconnected. Poor circulation affects testosterone. Low testosterone affects muscle mass and energy. Inflammation damages the delicate tissues that need healthy blood flow. It's a cascade, and coffee, while excellent for a temporary energy boost, doesn't address any of these underlying issues on its own. Caffeine stimulates your central nervous system, gives you alertness, and provides antioxidants. Sure, but it's a short-term solution. What I'm proposing is that we use coffee as a delivery system for compounds that work on a deeper, more sustained level. Let me start with something you probably already have in your pantry: cinnamon. Not just any cinnamon though. I recommend Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes called true cinnamon. The more common variety, cassia cinnamon, contains higher levels of a compound called coumarin, which in excessive amounts can affect liver function. Ceylon cinnamon has much lower coumarin content, and is safer for daily use. Now why cinnamon? The answer lies in what it does to your blood sugar and your blood vessels. When you consume cinnamon regularly, studies have shown that it can improve fasting glucose levels by 20 to 30% in people with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. That's significant. High blood sugar isn't just a diabetes issue, it's a vascular issue. When glucose levels stay elevated, a process called glycation occurs. Glucose molecules bind to proteins in your blood vessels, forming what are called advanced glycation end products, or AGE. These AGEs stiffen your vessels, damage the endothelium, and impair nitric oxide production. In other words, they sabotage the very system that keeps blood flowing smoothly to all the places it needs to go, including your penis. By stabilizing your blood sugar, cinnamon protects your microvascular system. That's the network of tiny blood vessels that feed every organ. For men over 50, maintaining that microvasculature is crucial for erectile quality, kidney function, brain health, and cardiovascular performance. But cinnamon doesn't stop at blood sugar. It's also rich in polyphenols, particularly a compound called cinnamaldehyde. This compound has been shown in research to improve endothelial function by supporting nitric oxide synthesis. Essentially, it helps your blood vessels relax and widen, improving circulation throughout your body. I had a patient, a 58-year-old contractor, who came to me frustrated. He wasn't diabetic, but his energy would nosedive around mid-morning, and he'd noticed that his morning erections, those spontaneous ones that are actually a sign of healthy circulation, had become rare. We ran his labs, and his fasting glucose was hovering in the pre-diabetic range. I suggested he start adding half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon to his morning coffee. No other changes at first, just that. Within about 3 weeks he told me he felt more stable throughout the day, no crashy. And about 6 weeks in he mentioned, almost embarrassed, that those morning erections were coming back. Was it just the cinnamon? Probably not entirely, but it was a low-risk intervention that aligned with his body's needs, and it worked as part of a broader strategy. The key with cinnamon is moderation. Half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon per day is plenty, more isn't better, and too much, especially of cassia cinnamon, can cause problems. Start small, pay attention to how your body responds, and adjust accordingly. Next, let's talk about cocoa powder. And I don't mean the sugary hot chocolate mix. I mean pure unsweetened cocoa powder, the kind that's dark and bitter and packed with flavonols. Cocoa is one of the richest dietary sources of flavonols, particularly epicechin and catechin. These compounds are powerful allies for your cardiovascular system. Research has demonstrated that regular cocoa consumption can improve what's called flow-mediated dilation. That's a fancy term for how well your blood vessels respond to increased blood flow by widening appropriately. In studies, men who consumed cocoa rich in flavonols saw improvements in vascular function of about 30%. Think about what that means. Better blood vessel responsiveness translates to better circulation to your muscles during exercise, to your brain for mental clarity, and yes, to your genitals for sexual function. Cocoa works by increasing the availability of nitric oxide, that same critical molecule I mentioned earlier. When nitric oxide levels are adequate, your blood vessels stay flexible and responsive. When they're low, everything stiffens up. Literally. Cocoa also does something interesting for your brain and mood. It contains compounds like anandamide, sometimes called the bliss molecule, and phenylethylamine, which can improve mood and focus. These aren't stimulants like caffeine, they work more subtly, supporting neurotransmitter function and promoting a sense of well-being. For men over 50 dealing with stress, work pressure, or even mild depressive symptoms, this mood support can be genuinely helpful. On top of that, cocoa is a good source of magnesium, a mineral that many men are deficient in. Magnesium plays a role in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including testosterone synthesis, muscle function, and energy production. Low magnesium has been linked to lower testosterone levels, poor sleep, and muscle cramps. By adding a teaspoon of unsweetened cocoa to your coffee, you're delivering a small but meaningful dose of magnesium along with those powerful flavonols. The taste takes a little getting used to, if you're not a dark chocolate fan, but mixed with coffee and perhaps a bit of cinnamon, it's actually quite pleasant. I tell my patients to think of it as a medicinal treat. You're not just enjoying your coffee, you're actively supporting your vascular health with every sip. Now let's move to something a little more exotic but incredibly effective, maca powder. Maca is a root vegetable that grows high in the Andes Mountains of Peru. It's been used for centuries by indigenous populations to enhance stamina, fertility, and overall vitality. But does it actually work, or is it just folklore? The research suggests it does work, and here's how. Maca is what's called an adaptogen. That means it helps your body adapt to stress and maintain balance across multiple systems, particularly the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. In plain English, it supports the communication between your brain and your hormone-producing glands, including your testes. Studies on maca have shown that it can improve libido, increase sperm count and motility, and enhance overall sexual desire in men. Importantly, it does this without directly altering testosterone or estrogen levels in most cases. Instead, it seems to work upstream, optimizing the signaling pathways that regulate hormone production. It's a more nuanced systemic effect. The active compounds in maca include macamides and macagenes, unique fatty acid derivatives, as well as zinc, amino acids, and polyphenols. Zinc, as you may know, is critical for testosterone production and sperm health. Even mild zinc deficiency can impair sexual function. Maca provides a bioavailable source of zinc, along with these other supportive compounds. In clinical trials, men taking about 2 to 3 grams of maca per day, which is roughly 1 teaspoon, reported improvements in energy, mood, and sexual desire after about 8 to 12 weeks. This isn't a quick fix. Maca builds your body's capacity gradually. It's like tuning up an engine rather than just adding more fuel. There are different types of maca: yellow, red, and black. Yellow maca is the most common and has a mild, slightly nutty flavor. Red maca is often associated with prostate health, and black maca is linked more specifically to sperm production and stamina. For general vitality and libido, yellow or black maca work well. Start with a half teaspoon in your coffee and work up to a full teaspoon. Some men find it slightly earthy tasting, but when blended with the other ingredients I'm discussing, it becomes part of a complex, rich flavor profile. The key is consistency. Don't expect results after 3 days. Give it 2 months, and pay attention to changes in your energy, your mood, and yes, your interest in and ability to perform sexually. Let me pause here and emphasize something important. These ingredients are not magic bullets. They're tools. If you're dealing with significant erectile dysfunction, low testosterone that's been confirmed by blood work, or cardiovascular disease, you need to work with a doctor. These additions to your coffee support your health. They don't replace medical care. But for men who are experiencing the normal gradual decline that comes with aging, these interventions can make a real difference in quality of life. They help you maintain what you have and potentially regain some of what you've lost. Now let's talk about fat, specifically coconut oil or MCT oil. MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides, and they're a type of fat that your body processes differently than the long chain fats found in most foods. MCTs are absorbed rapidly and transported directly to your liver, where they're converted into ketones. Ketones are an alternative fuel source for your brain and muscles, providing steady, sustained energy without the blood sugar spike and crash you get from carbohydrates. For men over 50, this metabolic flexibility is valuable. But there's another reason I recommend MCT or coconut oil in your coffee. Hormones. All your steroid hormones, including testosterone, are derived from cholesterol. When you consume healthy fats, you provide your body with the raw materials it needs to produce these hormones. Some small studies have suggested that men who consume medium-chain fats regularly can see modest increases in testosterone levels, somewhere in the range of 10 to 20%. That's not a dramatic transformation, but it's meaningful, especially when combined with other supportive strategies. MCT oil also supports fat metabolism. As you age, your body becomes less efficient at burning fat for fuel. You store it more easily and access it less readily. MCTs help reverse that trend by promoting fat oxidation. This can help with body composition, which indirectly supports testosterone levels. Higher body fat, particularly visceral fat around your organs, is associated with lower testosterone and higher estrogen because fat tissue contains an enzyme called aromatase that converts testosterone to estrogen. By supporting healthier fat metabolism, you help keep that balance in check. Now, a word of caution: if you have gallbladder issues or a history of digestive problems, MCT oil can cause discomfort. It's rich and can lead to loose stools if you start with too much. Begin with half a teaspoon, and if you tolerate it well, you can work up to a full teaspoon or even a tablespoon over time. Coconut oil works similarly and contains a mix of MCTs and longer chain fats. It's slightly more forgiving on the digestive system for some people. The other trick with adding oil to coffee is blending it. If you just stir it in, you'll end up with an oily slick on top, which isn't pleasant. Use a small blender or a handheld milk frother to emulsify the oil into your coffee. This creates a creamy, frothy texture that's actually quite satisfying. It's similar to a bulletproof coffee, if you've heard of that, but we're taking it further with the other ingredients. Finally, for this first part, let's discuss ginger. Ginger is a root that's been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years, and modern science is catching up with why it works. Ginger contains bioactive compounds called gingerols and shogails. These compounds have potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. They also promote vasodilation, meaning they help your blood vessels relax and open up. For men over 50, inflammation is often a hidden problem. It's not the acute inflammation you get from an injury. It's chronic low-grade inflammation that damages tissues over time, including the delicate endothelial lining of your blood vessels and the testicular tissue responsible for testosterone production. Ginger combats this. Animal studies and some human trials have shown that ginger supplementation can increase testosterone levels by about 15 to 20% and improve sperm quality. The mechanism seems to involve protecting testicular cells from oxidative stress and supporting the enzymes involved in testosterone synthesis. Ginger also has another benefit that's particularly relevant in the morning. It improves circulation and generates a warming sensation. If you've ever consumed fresh ginger, you know what I mean. It has a bit of a kick, a heat that spreads through your chest and limbs. That's the gingerols at work, stimulating blood flow and enhancing nutrient delivery to your tissue. This effect synergizes beautifully with cinnamon and cocoa, creating a compound effect on your vascular system. One thing to be aware of with ginger is that it has mild anticoagulant properties. It can thin your blood slightly, which is generally beneficial for circulation, but can be problematic if you're already taking blood thinners like warfarin or aspirin in high doses. If that's the case, talk to your doctor before adding ginger regularly to your routine. For most men though, a small amount of fresh or powdered ginger, maybe a quarter teaspoon of powder or a thin slice of fresh root, is safe and effective. You can grate fresh ginger directly into your coffee, or keep powdered ginger on hand for convenience. The flavor is strong, so start small and adjust. Some men love the spicy, invigorating taste, others prefer to keep it subtle. There's no wrong way to do it as long as you're consistent. Now that I've covered the individual ingredients, Let's talk about how you actually implement this in your daily routine. I don't recommend adding everything all at once. Your body needs time to adjust, and you want to be able to identify what's working for you and what might not agree with your system. Start simple. Pick one ingredient, let's say cinnamon, and add half a teaspoon to your coffee every morning for a week. Pay attention to how you feel. Are you more stable energy-wise? Any digestive changes? How's your mood after a week? If everything feels good, add a second ingredient. Maybe cocoa, half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon. Give it another week. Then add maca. You're building a custom formula based on your body's responses. This slow layering approach also prevents you from overwhelming your palate. These ingredients have strong flavors, and combining them thoughtfully makes the coffee enjoyable rather than medicinal tasting. For men who want a streamlined approach, here's what I call the lazy man's version. Get a small glass jar with a tight-fitting lid, mix together equal parts Ceylon cinnamon and unsweetened cocoa powder. Store it on your counter. Every morning, add 1 teaspoon of this pre-mixed blend to your coffee. It takes 5 seconds, and you're getting 2 powerful ingredients without measuring every time. You can even make a larger batch and keep it for a month or two. The flavors meld together, and it becomes part of your routine, like adding cream or sugar used to be. If you want to go further, you can add powdered ginger and maca to the mix, but be aware that maca clumps easily, so you might need to stir the blend before each use, or keep those ingredients separate and add them individually. Let me give you a power coffee recipe that incorporates everything I've discussed. Start with 8 to 12 ounces of freshly brewed coffee, whatever strength you prefer. Add 1 teaspoon of unsweetened cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of maca powder, 1 teaspoon of coconut oil or MCT oil, and a quarter teaspoon of powdered ginger or a thin slice of fresh ginger. If you're using fresh ginger, you can steep it in the hot coffee for a minute or two and then remove it, or leave it in if you like the intensity. Pour everything into a blender, and blend on high for about 15 to 20 seconds. You'll end up with a frothy, creamy, rich coffee that looks almost like a latte. The texture is smooth, the flavors are complex, and every ingredient is working synergistically to support your circulation, hormone production, energy levels, and mental clarity. Drink it slowly, enjoy it, and notice how you feel over the next few hours. Most men report that they don't get the typical caffeine crash. Instead, energy tapers off gradually, and focus remains sharp well into the afternoon. I want to address a common question I get: what about the taste? Isn't this going to be bitter or weird? Honestly, it's different. If you're used to sweet-flavored coffee, this will be an adjustment. But most men, once they try it for a few days, start to appreciate the depth of flavor. The cocoa adds richness, the cinnamon adds warmth and a hint of sweetness without sugar. The maca gives it an earthy, almost nutty quality, and the ginger provides a subtle kick. Together, they create something that tastes intentional, complex, and grown-up. It's not a dessert drink, it's a functional beverage designed to do work in your body. If you absolutely need a bit of sweetness, use a small amount of raw honey or stevia. Avoid sugar or artificial sweeteners that spike insulin and undermine the blood sugar benefits we're trying to achieve with cinnamon. Another practical tip: timing matters. Drink this enhanced coffee in the morning, ideally within an hour or two of waking up. Your cortisol levels are naturally higher in the morning, and pairing caffeine with these supportive ingredients gives you a strong metabolic and cognitive start to your day. Avoid drinking it late in the afternoon or evening, not just because of the caffeine, but because some of these ingredients, particularly ginger and maca, can be stimulating. You want to support your natural circadian rhythm, not disrupt it. Also, stay hydrated. Coffee is a diuretic, meaning it makes you urinate more frequently, which can lead to dehydration if you're not careful. For every cup of this enhanced coffee you drink, follow it with a glass of water within the next hour. Hydration is critical for circulation, kidney function, and overall performance. Dehydrated tissues don't function well, and dehydrated blood vessels are less responsive. Let's talk about realistic expectations. If you implement this routine consistently, here's what you can reasonably expect over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. Your energy will likely become more stable. You won't have the same peaks and valleys. Your focus might sharpen, particularly in the morning hour. You may notice that you're sleeping slightly better, especially if the magnesium from cocoa addresses a deficiency. Circulation improvements are harder to quantify day to day, but over weeks you might notice warmer hands and feet, better recovery from exercise, and potentially, yes, improvements in erectile quality. Morning erections might return or become firmer. Response time during sexual activity might improve. These are subtle changes, not dramatic overnight transformations. Your body is relearning how to function more efficiently. You're giving it tools it was missing, and it responds gradually. From a hormonal standpoint, don't expect your testosterone to double. These ingredients support healthy testosterone production. They don't replace testosterone replacement therapy. If your levels are severely low, you need medical intervention. But if you're in that gray zone where your levels are declining but not clinically low, these strategies can help you maintain what you have and potentially nudge things in a positive direction. Libido is often one of the first things men notice improving. Interest in sex returns, spontaneous thoughts about intimacy become more common. That mental aspect of sexuality, the desire, is closely tied to both testosterone and vascular health. When both improve, even modestly, the effects compound. One of the most important practices I recommend to my patients is journaling. Not in a Dear Diary way, but in a data tracking way. Keep a simple log. Every morning, rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10. Note the quality of your sleep the night before. Track your workouts, how much weight you lifted, how far you ran, how you felt during and after. Note your mood. Are you irritable, content, anxious, calm, and yes, track your sexual function. How strong are your morning erections? How's your libido? How's your performance with your partner? This kind of tracking does two things. First, it gives you objective data. When you look back over a month, you'll see patterns and trends that you might not notice day to day. Second, it keeps you accountable. You're more likely to stick with a routine when you're actively measuring its effects. You don't need a fancy app. A notebook or a simple spreadsheet works fine. Just be consistent. Now I want to address a mindset issue that I see all the time in my practice. Men over 50 often feel like their bodies are betraying them. They compare themselves to their younger selves and feel frustrated, even ashamed. Listen, aging is not failure. Your body at 55 is different from your body at 25, and that's okay. The goal isn't to turn back the clock. The goal is to optimize the body you have now. These additions to your coffee, they're part of a broader philosophy. You're taking responsibility for your health. You're making small, sustainable changes that add up over time. You're not looking for a magic pill. You're building a foundation, and that foundation includes not just what you put in your coffee, but how you move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you manage stress, and how you stay connected to the people and activities that give your life meaning. Let me be clear about what these ingredients do not do. They do not cure erectile dysfunction caused by severe vascular disease or nerve damage. They do not replace the need for blood pressure medication if you're hypertensive. They do not eliminate the need for prostate cancer screenings or cardiovascular checkups. They do not compensate for a sedentary lifestyle, a diet full of processed foods, chronic sleep deprivation, or unmanaged stress. They are one piece of a larger puzzle, but they're an accessible, affordable, low-risk piece that most men can implement immediately. And when combined with other healthy behaviors, the effects are greater than the sum of the parts. That's synergy. I also want to mention that individual responses will vary. Genetics, baseline health status, existing medications, and lifestyle factors all influence how your body responds to these ingredients. Some men notice changes within 2 weeks, others need 2 months. A small percentage might not notice much at all, especially if there are underlying medical issues that need to be addressed first. If you've been consistent for 3 months, and you're not seeing any improvements in energy, mood, or sexual function, that's a signal to get more comprehensive lab work done. Check your testosterone, your vitamin D, your thyroid function, your hemoglobin A1C, and your lipid panel. There might be something else going on that needs attention. These coffee additions are supportive, not corrective of major pathology. Let's also talk about safety and contraindications more explicitly. If you have a bleeding disorder, or you're on anticoagulant medication, the ginger and even the cocoa can potentiate those effects. Talk to your doctor. If you have a history of kidney stones, particularly calcium oxalate stones, be cautious with cocoa, as it's high in oxalate. If you have gallbladder disease, MCT oil might cause discomfort or even trigger a gallbladder attack. If you're taking medication for diabetes, the cinnamon's blood sugar lowering effects could cause hypoglycemia if your dose isn't adjusted. These are real considerations. The fact that these are natural ingredients does not mean they're without risk. Natural simply means they come from plants or food sources. They still have pharmacological effects. Treat them with respect, and when in doubt, consult a healthcare provider who understands both conventional medicine and nutritional interventions. I've had patients ask me about quality and sourcing. Does it matter where you buy these ingredients? The answer is yes, to a degree. For cinnamon, as I mentioned, Ceylon is preferable to cassia for daily use. Look for organic if possible, as cinnamon can be contaminated with heavy metals if not sourced carefully. For cocoa, choose a brand that's unsweetened and ideally organic. Dutch processed cocoa has been treated with alkali to reduce bitterness, but this process also reduces the flavanol content. Natural cocoa powder retains more of the beneficial compounds. For maca, look for gelatinized maca if you have a sensitive stomach. The gelatinization process removes some of the starches that can cause digestive upset. For coconut oil, virgin or extra virgin is best, as it's less processed. Main CT oil should be pure, ideally derived from coconut or palm kernel oil, and should list the specific MCTs it contains, with C8 and C10 being the most desirable. For ginger, fresh is fantastic, but organic powdered ginger is convenient and effective. You don't need to spend a fortune, but don't go for the cheapest option on the shelf either. Quality matters when you're consuming something daily for health purposes. Another question I hear, can I just take these ingredients as supplements in capsule form instead of putting them in my coffee? You can, and there are good supplements available for each of these. But there's something to be said for the ritual of preparing your coffee this way. It's intentional. You're starting your day with a deliberate act of self-care. You're engaging your senses, the smell of the spices, the taste of the complex blend, the warmth of the cup in your hands. This mindfulness, this presence, has its own benefits for mental health and stress management. Plus, when you consume these ingredients with coffee, the caffeine may enhance the absorption of some of the polyphenols, and the fats from the coconut or MCT oil help with the absorption of fat-soluble compounds. There's a synergy in the combination that you might not get from taking isolated capsules throughout the day. That said, if you're traveling or you simply prefer supplements, that's a valid approach. The most important thing is consistency, regardless of the delivery method. Let me give you one final piece of practical advice. Start this routine on a weekend, or a day when you're not under intense time pressure. The first time you make this enhanced coffee, it's going to take you a few extra minutes. You're measuring, blending, adjust. You might need to taste and tweak the proportions to suit your palate. Once you've dialed it in, the process becomes quick and automatic, but give yourself that initial grace period to experiment without rushing. And don't be afraid to adjust the recipe. If the ginger is too intense for you, cut it back or leave it out entirely. If you love the cocoa, add a bit more. This is your coffee, your health, your body. Make it work for you. I want to close by circling back to the bigger picture. After 50, men often feel invisible. Society tells you that your best years are behind you, that your vitality, your strength, your sexuality are inevitably declining, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm here to tell you that's not true. You're not broken, you're not past your prime, you're just running on low-grade fuel, and your body hasn't been given the support it needs to adapt to this stage of life. These small shifts, adding cinnamon, cocoa, maca, healthy fats and ginger to your morning coffee, they're acts of defiance. You're saying, I'm not settling, I'm not giving up, I'm going to give my body what it needs to perform at its best. And when you do that consistently, when you pair it with movement, good sleep, stress management, and regular medical care, you'll be amazed at what's possible. Energy strength builds, confidence resurfaces, and yes, your sex life can improve, sometimes dramatically. I want to hear from you. Which ingredient are you going to try first? Are you a cinnamon guy, or does the idea of maki intrigue you? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you found this information valuable, hit that subscribe button. I release new videos every week on men's health after 50, covering everything from hormone optimization, to prostate health, to exercise strategies that actually work for older men. Share this video with a friend who could benefit. A lot of men are struggling in silence, and they don't know that simple evidence-based interventions like this exist. You could be the one who points them in the right direction. Thank you for watching, and here's to your health, your vitality, and your second act. It's just getting started.